Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about the synastry aspect of Moon conjunct with Saturn. So it's not surprising to me this one was requested a few times because it's almost like eerie in the level of karmic energy present with this one aspect. This one could be potentially a past life connection carried over, a past life love relationship, or even a past life parental relationship. It definitely has very heavy and fateful feelings associated with it. So it's not necessarily negative, although it can play out that way, but it's definitely a very powerful karmic indicator in a relationship. So the moon person can feel like the Saturn person has like a parental role over them. The Saturn person, I mean, whenever we're looking at Saturn and synastry, it's almost like the Saturn is like the daddy energy. So, I mean, and it's interesting because sometimes you'll have this relationship or you'll have this aspect in like an age gap relationship where they're quite different in age. And if the Saturn person is the younger partner, it's interesting how they don't seem younger. And so that's common in relationships with a large age difference where the younger partner has a Saturn influence over the older partner. So like they actually they don't feel like they're younger because Saturn is where we're like feeling ancient. So that can happen. But then we can also have it the other way as well where, you know, the older partner is obviously like the parental role, but sometimes you can see it with that switch there. So the Saturn person definitely has like a level of authority and power over the moon person, but the Saturn person doesn't always know that because the Saturn person can actually feel really old or uncomfortable around the moon person because the moon is like our heart. It's like our inner child, our how we feel, right? And Saturn is where we struggle and where things are just really challenging and hard, but where we're actually like ancient and gifted and wise. But so the Saturn person can still feel like it's kind of like they can feel triggered or uncomfortable around the moon person, and then the moon person can also feel a bit triggered and uncomfortable around the Saturn person because they can feel like they're being judged or that they're not as serious or wise in the area of their moon as the Saturn person is. So there can definitely be some shyness and some uncomfortability with this aspect, but at the same time, like a deep knowing that we have a purpose together. And this one is a really good idea to look at, okay, what sign is it coming through and what house is it falling in both people's charts, because this is going to be a major karmic theme for the relationship when we have a strong conjunction with Saturn in the synastry chart. It's definitely a major karmic purpose of the entire relationship. So when you have this aspect, you want to really study the sign and the house placement of that Saturn, like what is being brought up here. So the moon person does have the potential to feel very protected and safe around the Saturn person, and the Saturn person has like a protective feeling towards the moon person. They want to take care of them. They want to, and not like in a super nurturing way or anything, but Saturn represents structure. So like somehow the Saturn person brings structure to the moon's emotions and feelings in their day-to-day life. Like you could see the Saturn person actually like housing the moon person in some way, or they're just providing that structure for the moon person to really get a sense of what they feel. And yeah, so that can really be seen with this influence as well as kind of like a parental or protective bond where they just maybe sometimes they can't live together, but they can't live without each other either. And you have to look at the rest of the synastry. Like, are there more joyful things going on? Because this doesn't necessarily show like a lighthearted playfulness or anything like that. It's more serious when we have Saturn, right? But if there's other fun things going on, the depressiveness of this aspect would be lessened. But usually with this, it's not a super lighthearted energy. It's a very faded energy. It's a very purposeful energy. Like if this is a business relationship, you get the job done kind of thing, where in a personal relationship, it can feel a bit cold at times, especially for the moon person. It can feel like, maybe the Saturn person is a bit hard on them, or yeah, like the strict father figure. And you have to look at the sign that it's happening in, but the moon person can feel like that. And the Saturn person can feel like the moon person is just someone who they can't let go of, and they need to make sure is safe and taken care of at all times. And it can be very strange in some situations where maybe like this isn't a romantic relationship, but the level of like duty that the Saturn person feels towards the moon person, it's just eerie. Like it's parental. It's very karmic and faded and past life-ish. Yeah, it's interesting to see how this plays out. But yeah, like even in a friendship, when we have moon conjunct Saturn, the Saturn person, yeah, it just feels like this deep bondage to the moon person. And the moon person can feel like the Saturn person is a little heavy or a little stuffy, or, maybe not the most fun person ever, depending on other things, but they do look up to them. Like they feel like they are an authority, and like they have a knowing that like the Saturn person is meant to be a significant part of their life. So what can also happen here is like, specifically actually for both people, because this is kind of like a 4th and 10th house influence when we have the moon conjunct Saturn, family issues like childhood trauma, even past life trauma, career goals and things like 4th, 10th house issues seem to be predominantly involved in this relationship, or the people are predominantly involved in those issues. So like this could be a relationship where you really get the opportunity to look at your childhood again and like figure out what's in your emotional body still from childhood that maybe needs to be reworked and resolved, right? So this can be a great gift. This relationship can be a great gift for healing and wisdom. And it's definitely serious and deep and faded. And yeah, it can be really good though, because the people cannot let each other go. This is what they say about Saturn. Saturn is binding, and when we have the moon with Saturn, it's the most binding of all, because the moon is our deepest heart and feelings, and combined with Saturn, the structure, it just really solidifies a relationship. And this is another aspect in the composite chart. I'm not talking about that in this aspect, but moon conjunct Saturn in the composite chart is quite common in married couples, because it's just so bonding and binding, right? So same exact with this aspect, although it can also be in more karmic relationships as well, or friendships or business relationships. It's just whatever relationship it's in, it's an eerie feeling of fate and karma and healing happening when we have this aspect. So yeah, and look at what sign it's in. That's the issue, and the house that it's in, that's the area that we're working with, and this is a major purpose of the relationship. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Let me know your requests below. I'm doing requests, and it's got so dark here because I didn't turn my light on because I got a big scratch on my face. My son scratched me, so I didn't want it super bright. But that's kind of symbolic of this aspect. It's like dark and and deep. No, it's not. It's not super dark. It's just not light and fluffy. Okay, like some other aspects. So yeah, let me know your requests. Let me know your experience of this aspect. I'd love to know that. And yeah, I'm gonna keep making videos for you guys. So fun doing your requests. Love you guys, and thanks for watching. Bye.